I didn't receive the news by phone call, not even by message, not even by mistake. I found out by accident. I was in my sister's kitchen when I heard her talking on the phone. Yes, tomorrow at 10 at Dad's house. Everyone will be there. All? I didn't know there would be a meeting, much less a meeting about the will. My father had died 3 weeks ago. We had met at the funeral. At that time, no one mentioned inheritances, divisions, or properties. At least, not in front of me. But now, they were organizing it without me. I didn't ask anything. I'm limited to saying, "Can I help you set the table?" She didn't even look up. He just nodded. That gesture broke my heart more than any words. Money didn't bother me. It hurt me what it meant to be excluded like that, as if it weren't part of anything, as if my name, it wouldn't matter. I walked home slowly, feeling that each step was a confirmation. This family never saw me as one of them. And yet, I will go tomorrow. Not because they want me there, but because I deserve to be there. If this story is resonating with you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. It wasn't the first time I'd been sidelined. Only this time, they had done it officially. Since I was a child, I was always the one who asked too many questions. The one who dressed differently. The one who didn't get married in time. The one who didn't have children, as she should have. I always heard comments disguised as smiles. She's special. You know how she is. Always so dramatic, so intense. And little by little, without me realizing it, they turned me into that. The awkward relative. The one they invite out of obligation. The one who doesn't fit in the photos. The one who doesn't count in the decisions. But there's a difference between being inconsiderate and not being considerate. And being deliberately erased is something else entirely. Because that's what they did. They deleted me. While he was alive, my father would look for me. He was calling me. He would ask me to help him with his mail, his appointments, his coffee. He was the one who reminded me that I did matter, that he did belong. And now that he's gone, they took the opportunity to close the door, in silence, without explanation. But they forgot. I am not the same woman I used to be. And even though my legs are trembling, I will show up tomorrow. Because the weight of a lifetime of being invisible, it transforms into strength when you have nothing left to lose. I arrived half an hour early, not because I wanted to be punctual, but because I couldn't stay home. Because if I thought about it too much, I wouldn't go. My childhood home no longer felt like home. It was a family museum where my painting was always hung in the hallway, far from the center. I knocked on the door. Nobody answered. I went in anyway. The door was unlocked. I heard them from the living room. Suppressed laughter, rapid voices, names spoken like codes, and a phrase that chilled me to the bone. Well, we're all here. No, not everyone was there. I sat down in the kitchen, the same one where my mother cooked on Sundays, where my dad would serve me coffee without sugar, because he said sugar ruined the real flavor. I could hear them moving around, organizing papers, and giving their opinions on what Dad would have wanted. And I, a few meters away, invisible. Do not enter. I didn't want to beg for space, but it hurt. Every word spoken without me hurt. It hurt every minute that my name didn't appear. It hurt more to know that they knew, and yet they still decided to exclude me. The humiliation was not public, but it was profound. And just when I thought that would be it, I heard soft footsteps, lightweight. The door opened, and there she was, my niece, the youngest, the quietest one. And with just one look, I knew something was about to change. He was 17 years old. She was always different from everyone else. Observant, sensitive, with a gaze that seemed to understand more than she said. Since she was a child, she would follow me around the house when no one else wanted to talk. I taught her to read aloud. I lent her my books. I told her stories that she kept as shared secrets. And there it was again, standing in the kitchen, looking at me as if she had just found something she didn't know she had lost. "Why are you here?" he asked in a low voice. I shrugged. I didn't know how to explain to him what even I struggled to understand. She came closer, sat down opposite me, and said, "They're ignoring you, aren't they?" I nodded. Her eyes filled with something between anger and sadness. "This isn't right. They can't do this to you." I told him it wasn't worth it. He said it was an adult meeting and that he didn't want to cause a scene. But she got up. He looked at me with a determination that I never had at that age. "If you're not going to come in, then I am going to speak." And before I could stop her, he opened the door to the family room. He didn't scream. He didn't hit anything. He just walked to the center, stopped, and said, "Why isn't she here?" And the silence that fell. It was the most honest feeling I had ever experienced in my entire life. The question hung in the air like an unexploded bomb. Everyone stopped talking. Some pretended not to have heard. Others looked at her in bewilderment, as if her voice wasn't allowed to be so loud in an adult room. My sister was the first to react. "Honey, this is no time for interruptions." But she didn't move. "She's my aunt. Why wasn't she invited?" The tension in the room grew thick. My brother-in-law looked down at the ground. A cousin looked away. My brother simply closed his eyes as if he wished to disappear. No one answered, because there was no dignified way to justify what they had done. She repeated, more softly, but without losing firmness, "You always talk about what is right, what Dad or Mom would have wanted, but excluding someone who was with my grandfather until the end, is that also what he would have wanted?" And then I understood that something profound was happening. That girl, the youngest, the most invisible after me, she had just broken a cycle of years of family hypocrisy. His voice was like a crack in the false ground they were walking on. And in that crack, light entered. I didn't move from the kitchen. She had tears held back, but she didn't cry, because for the first time, someone had defended me, and not out of obligation, but for truth. My sister got up, trying to control the situation. "Please don't make a scene." But my niece didn't move. She didn't cry. He didn't scream. He simply maintained that firm posture, that silent fire in his eyes. "This isn't a scene. It's a question." The silence became uncomfortable, not because of the tone, but because of the truth that lay behind his words. My uncle, always quick to regain control, intervened in a weary voice. "Things aren't that simple. Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions for the good of everyone." She stared at him. And who decided that she wasn't part of that everyone? I saw him swallow hard. I saw him seeking support in the eyes of the others, but this time no one came to his defense. The family spell was broken. My niece took a step towards the kitchen. "Auntie, come here." For a second I hesitated. I was afraid of making a fool of myself. I was afraid they would make fun of me, that they would feign kindness now so as not to look bad. But something about her voice, it gave me back something I had lost years ago, the belief that I had a right to be there. I got up, and when they entered the room, nobody said anything, because they couldn't anymore. She had said everything I hadn't been able to put into words, and with that, he not only opened a door for me, he gave me back the name that had been taken from me. Crossing that threshold was more difficult than any other moment in my life, not because I was afraid of rejection, I had already experienced that, but because I was terrified of not recognizing myself among them. But when I entered, I saw no mockery, nor do I despise, just discomfort and embarrassment, the shame of knowing they are exposed, knowing that someone broke the pact of silence, and that she wasn't the oldest, nor the most experienced. She was a 17-year-old girl. I sat down in the nearest empty chair. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't apologize. I took a deep breath, and I spoke. "I didn't come for money. I came for respect." No one answered. I looked at my niece again. She smiled at me with that mixture of tenderness and pride that only those who do the right thing without seeking reward possess. And in that gesture, I found what had been denied me for years: validation. I had been left out of many conversations, of celebrations, of decisions, but no more. The room no longer intimidated me. She was no longer a stranger, not because they accepted me, but because someone else reminded me that I already belonged, with or without their permission. And that day, something changed forever. I not only got my place back at the table, I reclaimed my place within myself. The inheritance was divided, just as they had planned. There were no drastic changes. No one offered me a public apology, nor magical reversals of the will. But that didn't matter so much anymore, because what I took away from that meeting, it was more valuable than any title deed. I left with the certainty that I wasn't as alone as I thought. Even in the most broken families, sometimes, a single young voice can rewrite the entire script. My niece didn't know that her gesture would change me, but he did it. I saw myself reflected in her. I saw what I once was, before life and family made me doubt myself. We talk more often now. We send each other letters. We share books. And when we see each other, she calls me my silent role model. I tell him, "You gave me back my sound." Today, I am not rich. I am not influential. Nor am I in the center of any family photo. But I have something that no one can take from me. A voice. A niece. And the conviction that sometimes all it takes is one person who dares to say, "Why isn't she here?" He thought that excluding me was enough. That silence would make me forget. That the passage of time would make me submissive. But what he didn't understand is that some absences scream louder than presences. And mine was already an unbearable echo. My niece didn't invite me again. He recognized me. He pointed at me without fear and said, "She belongs." And that phrase, simple and brave, broke years of indifference. Not everyone in the room changed. Not everyone spoke to me afterwards. But something broke. And in that crack, a new kind of truth was born. If you were ever made to feel like you didn't belong, if they removed your name from meetings, photos, or decisions, write in the comments, "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." And tell me where you're watching this from, and what time is it there? Because if this story touched you, perhaps you also needed someone to remind you that you never stopped deserving your place.